Hello. In this lesson tutorial, I want to create the player character essentially. So we need inputs. We need an input mapping context that has input actions. We can create an inputs folder. Right click in the content browser, go to input. We need an input mapping context. I want to name this input mapping context 01. I'll save that. I want to create a new folder and call this 2D axis input actions. I'm gonna go in here and first add. So we're gonna add move and look. So we need input action. I'll call this move, and I want to go in here and make this an axis 2D vector 2D. Then I'm gonna duplicate this and call it look. I want to create a folder called input actions. Go to here, add an input action. I want these to be everything I do with control in the game. But we're only doing our vitality functions right now. So I actually want these to be jump, crouch, sprint, and that might be jump, crouch, and sprint. Okay, then we have look and move. We save all and go to our input mapping context. We can add all of these. Crouch, you can click this, select the key value button, and it'll record your next keystroke. I want crouch to be C and also left control. I'll add a new mapping. Well, we'll do C. We'll do C. Oh, and to be honest, I don't think that I want crouch. Let's get rid of crouch. Get rid of crouch. We'll do jump and sprint. Input actions. Go back to the input mapping context. Okay, so we'll do jump. That'll be spacebar. Another input mapping. Look. That's mouse XY 2D axis. We can get sprint. That's left shift. We can also type left shift. Type for any of them. Move is our W. Another one S. Another control binding A and D. They need modifiers. The modifier for W is swizzle input axis values. The modifier for S is both swizzle input axis values. Add an element to the modifier and make the second element negate. For A, the modifier is negate. We can collapse all these again. We go to the player character now. We have an input mapping context and input action events. This is the viewport. This is the components panel. This is the My Blueprint panel where the variables are and the event graph. This is the details panel. This is the mesh details section, the skeletal mesh asset details section. Animation. Here's animation mode, anim class. And okay, so we go to the event graph. We have an input mapping context and we have input action events. How do we use that? Well, we'll start by cast to player controller, casting to the player controller. From the object, I want to get player controller under game, not player state. Don't get the player controller that's under player state. That won't work for you so well. As player controller, I want to get the enhanced input local player subsystem. Enhanced input local player subsystem. So the player that's controlling it. Enhanced input. It's a better way to get the input of the local player, and it's a subsystem of well, it's a subsystem, and we're getting it from the player controller. We can check if this is valid. And then finally, we want to add mapping context. Link all this up. And add our mapping context. Input mapping context 0, 1. We can split this struct. We have the input mapping context. We don't need these. Delete that. Okay. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we'll continue adding the input actions. Thanks a lot.